that's tough to see. Well, thankfully, Meghan has now found the courage to talk about this on her podcast today.
Like I said, I was thankful for the job, but not for how it made me feel, which was not smart.
To climb up on to get to the top of the tree. And I've been fascinated to see the amount of branches that were built.
Oh, please. Before Meghan Markle ever tried to convince the world she was some flawless royal angel, she was already out there working her real talent. And no, it wasn't acting. It wasn't charm, it was networking. The kind that cuts sharper than a surgeon's scalpel. While most actresses were running from audition to audition, praying someone would remember their name, Meghan was already polishing the skills she knew mattered more than anything else. Climbing the social ladder with a smile that hit 1,000 calculations. She didn't wait for opportunities. She hunted them. Meghan moved through the entertainment world like someone who knew the rules didn't apply to her. She wasn't just acting on screen, she was acting in real life, playing the role of the girl who always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. And trust me, none of that was accidental.
And little substance. And that's how it felt for me at the time. Being reduced to this specific archetype.
Forget tiaras, forget titles. Her real kingdom wasn't in palaces, it was at Soho House, the place where wealthy people pretend they're relaxed while secretly scouting their next big connection, and standing right beside her, night after night, drink after drink, fake laugh after fake laugh, was Markus Anderson, the guy who could take a complete nobody and upgrade them faster than you can say A-list by association. Meghan knew exactly what she was doing. And Markus, he was the golden ticket she had been waiting for.
I talked about with the great Meghan Kelly, the host of the Meghan Kelly Show. Find it on YouTube, SiriusXM podcast.
Let's talk about Markus Anderson, the man who somehow went from handing out martinis to handing out access. Before Meghan was even on the royal radar, Markus was already crafting his own ascent, charm by charm. He started as a Soho House waiter, yes, but don't imagine him balancing trays like a typical employee. Markus poured charm, and he poured it with absolute genius. He wasn't serving drinks, he was serving influence. He figured out early that power isn't about rank, it's about proximity, and he planned every step accordingly.
Markus Anderson is very unique in the Meghan Markle Disposable Friends series because Markus is indispensable.
Markus had a talent people would honestly sell their souls for. He made the powerful feel like they needed him. That was his secret. By the time Meghan crossed his path, Markus was no longer a staff member. He was the gatekeeper. If you wanted into the glittering world of elites, you had to pass through Markus. And Meghan knew that. She didn't just see him. She spotted him the way a predator spots an opening. And once she latched on, she never let go.
Honestly, there is no end to this woman's deceptive nature, to her abject dishonesty. That's what we're seeing here. She does this podcast with Paris.
And that's exactly what Meghan did. She saw Markus like a hawk sees prey. Sharp, fast, and with total certainty. Markus had doors, and she wanted every single one of them open. Thanks to him, she suddenly found herself jetting off on Soho House business trips, rubbing shoulders with Hollywood decision-makers and anyone who could nudge her 1 inch closer to the fame she craved. This wasn't love, this wasn't even friendship, it was strategy. And it was executed perfectly. She attached herself, and Markus guided her right into the rooms she'd been dreaming of.
Does this podcast with Paris Hilton on how, they've been labeled bimbos. It's so wrong. Meanwhile, Paris Hilton made millions of dollars off of that label, leaned into it robustly, which she discusses in the podcast.
She does this podcast with Paris Hilton whining about being labeled a bimbo, trying to paint herself as misunderstood. Meanwhile, Paris, she turned that label into millions and didn't blink Meghan, though. She needed Markus to give her the instant credibility she didn't have. Overnight, she wasn't that girl from Suits anymore. She became the woman people wanted to invite places. And Markus, oh, he adored it. Puppet masters also love a bit of spotlight, and Meghan gave him plenty. If ambition had a face, it would be Meghan Markle. Designer bag on her arm, Markus Anderson right behind her. Their whole bond wasn't based on humor, loyalty, or nostalgia. It was built entirely on leverage, a carefully balanced exchange of, you help me, I elevate you. Every move was intentional. Markus knew people Meghan wanted to know them. It was the simplest equation ever, and they solved it together. They became the ultimate social climbing duo, rising through high society faster than anyone could keep up without Markus Anderson. Meghan would never have achieved the global recognition she parades around with today. He fed her introductions, guided her to designers, producers, philanthropists, people who could turn an actress into an icon. To Meghan, Markus wasn't a friend. He was a ladder dressed as a human being. He arranged the events, she worked the rooms, he opened doors. She flashed her practiced smile and made sure she stayed unforgettable. And before anyone knew it, she had gone from hustling for roles to circulating among world elites, or infamy, depending on who you ask. And Markus? He was the architect behind it all. But here's the twist. It was Markus who allegedly arranged that cozy weekend at Soho Farmhouse. Yes, that weekend. The magical setup where Meghan just so happened to meet Prince Harry. Accident? Please. Meghan didn't fall into royal life. She walked in wearing heels and a plan. Markus didn't need a crown to play kingmaker. Every introduction he made, every encounter he set up, was part of a bigger operation. Meghan didn't trust luck, she trusted logistics. And Markus was her secret weapon. Now, when Meghan finally locked down her prince, you'd think the people who helped her climb would fade quietly into the background. And most did her old Hollywood friends? Gone. The social media buddies? Silent. But Markus? Oh no. Markus wasn't going anywhere. While Meghan's world shifted into royal chaos, Markus somehow slipped right into the palace atmosphere like he owned a corridor in Kensington. No title, no lineage, no royal protocol. Yet there he was, floating around in the background of Meghan's shiny new life. He was at pre-wedding gatherings, private holidays, little dinners no one ever talks about publicly. Palace staff saw him so much, some of them genuinely wondered if he had an unofficial position. He wasn't hired, he wasn't related, but he behaved like someone with permanent access. Some insiders even called him Meghan's shadow, because whenever she appeared, he wasn't far behind. He moved like someone who didn't just know secrets, he managed them, and that made people inside those palace walls uneasy. Extremely uneasy, because Markus didn't bow, he didn't defer, he didn't treat royals with the kind of reverence everyone else had drilled into them from birth. His loyalty was laser-focused on Meghan and Meghan only. And after she married Harry, that devotion became even more obvious. For the royals, that was a huge red flag. Rumors started swirling. The quiet kind whispered during late-night briefings that Markus still had influence over Meghan's decisions, that even as a duchess, she was leaning on him for advice, direction, positioning. Some even claimed he was still subtly guiding her moves from behind the scenes. And the thing about the royal world, no one gets that close unless they have a purpose. And Markus absolutely had one. Then came the spark that lit the royal powder keg. The moment that practically froze the palace. It began as a whisper, a tiny leak, an anonymous comment from someone close to Markus, hinting that his bond with Meghan was deeper, longer, and more unbreakable than anyone knew. Just a vague remark. But in royal circles, a whisper is like throwing gasoline on the tabloids, and suddenly the press exploded. Tabloids went wild. Headlines screamed that Markus had finally broken his silence on Meghan's behavior, hinting at things he'd seen, things he knew, things she never wanted public. Every old photo resurfaced. Every trip they took became suspicious. Every cozy dinner between them was retold like a secret conspiracy. Buckingham Palace practically had a collective meltdown. Phones started ringing. PR advisors rushed in. There were meetings behind closed doors full of panic. Because this wasn't some random ex-friend selling a cheap story. This was Markus Anderson, the man who knew Meghan before the crown, before the scandals, before the world even cared about her. This man had seen everything. Stories were pulled. Calls were made. Cover-ups began swirling. Meghan was already fighting the press at this point, and now she had a crisis coming from inside her inner circle. Markus didn't deny. He didn't explain. He didn't soften anything. He didn't even blink. He stayed silent, and that made everything 1,000 times worse, because silence meant one thing. He had information, he had receipts, and he was choosing not to clear Meghan's name, which for the royals was almost as bad as exposing secrets outright. Meghan was furious. Insiders claimed she felt more betrayed by Markus than any newspaper, because this wasn't a journalist twisting her words. This was him, the one who helped build her brand, the one who guided her rise, the one who had seen her most unfiltered moments. And now he wasn't protecting her. His silence felt like a threat. For Buckingham Palace, it was DEFCON 1. Behind those ancient walls, aides were scrambling, emails flying, crisis meetings forming. They needed to know exactly how much Markus knew, and how much he could unleash if he ever decided to open his mouth fully. They called it containment. Let's be real, it was panic. Meanwhile, Meghan's team scrambled to plaster emotional statements, talk about loyalty, misunderstood friendships, soft little press nudges trying to cool the fire. But it was far too late. The world had already made up its mind. Meghan Markle was betrayed by her closest friend. And Markus, he vanished. Completely vanished. No tweets, no posts, no appearances. The man who once lived in VIP lounges and exclusive events disappeared like smoke, and that silence? Oh, it was deafening. Because in royal culture, silence is rarely innocence. Silence often means someone is holding many, many secrets. Tabloids dug deeper, sniffing everywhere, refusing to let the scandal die. And Markus's name became toxic. Not publicly. Nobody wanted to be the first to say anything, but behind closed doors, everyone whispered it. Because here's what terrified them most. Markus had witnessed everything. The heated arguments, the frantic midnight calls, the private comments Meghan made when no cameras were around. He'd seen how she shifted around certain people, how she performed around others, how she strategized every step. He wasn't just a friend, he was an eyewitness to the rise of Meghan Markle. Old party photos resurfaced showing the two of them whispering, laughing, traveling. Every innocent moment reinterpreted as strategy. The tabloids painted her as manipulative and Markus as her sleek partner in ambition. Inside the palace, they didn't see a friendship. They saw a liability. Rumor has it, palace aides even tried to gently persuade Meghan to distance herself from him. Not because they didn't like Markus, but because they were terrified that the next leak might come from someone in his orbit, because some strange little bits of personal information had started appearing in the press, and no one could confirm where they originated. Markus didn't defend himself. He didn't clear his name. He didn't clear hers. He didn't speak at all. And that silence acted like a blade. For Meghan, it was a nightmare. One single confession from Markus, real or exaggerated, could have shattered everything she built. He knew too much, too intimately. He had witnessed too many unfiltered versions of her. Then, after years of total quiet, Markus reappeared. Not with a book deal, not with a documentary, no. He resurfaced quietly at a private event. Someone leaked his comments, and suddenly the world had its Markus finally speaks moment. He didn't accuse Meghan. He didn't expose details. But he didn't protect her either. He simply said in a calm, unnervingly measured tone that the truth people believe isn't always the truth that happened. That one sentence was like throwing a grenade. He knows things. He knows that we know he knows things. And he knows we'll never stop wondering. He described Meghan as deeply misunderstood and fiercely determined, which anyone in PR can translate to. She's a lot to handle, but I'm not saying it out loud. It wasn't betrayal, but it wasn't loyalty. It was somewhere in between. That blurry space where suspicions grow. Royal insiders were angry, furious even. They saw it as strategic damage control. Meghan's critics saw it as a soft confession hiding sharp edges. Meghan herself was reportedly livid because Markus didn't deny anything. He only invited more curiosity, and that's when everything changed forever. After that night, Markus slipped back into the shadows again, this time for good. Meghan's circle shrank drastically. Trust became something she no longer gave freely. Every friend became a potential headline. Every associate a possible leak. Markus didn't need to expose anything. His half-truths and silences did the damage on their own.